Welcome back to ImagineX Challenge. My name is Casey and I'm going to be leading you through session 3, where we're going to look at your greatest gifts and passions and see where they cross paths with people's greatest pain during this pandemic. That intersection is where innovation happens. It's your unique gift that you get to share with the world. All right, you can see I got my party hat on because we are so excited that in session 2, you got out of your house, out of focusing on your own needs, and you got out of your own comfort zone and went to go bless someone else. So that was the first and biggest important step. So I'm just going to take a second and I'm going to celebrate you. That's right, party you, well done. Hit the cake, blow out the candle, take a bite. I'm just going to be sitting here while you, in the next 5 minutes, if you would discuss just amongst your team what was great about this experience for you. See you in 5. Oh, hey, welcome back. Boy, I hope you had fun celebrating you. I know I sure did. All right, well, here we're continuing on because what you just did, taking a risk and asking the question, what went right, what went wrong, and what can we do different, is at the heart of innovation. You guys are already on your way to doing something even better and more targeted. We can't wait to see what you come up with next. All right, in order to get there, we first need to look at all of the resources that you have to bless others. Resources are simply those things that can be useful to yourself and to others. Now you might be thinking, I don't have anything or much to offer others, but that's simply not true. All of us have something unique to offer others. So the truth is, in the story of the Good Samaritan, the priest and the Levite were probably better positioned to help the wounded man than the Samaritan was. Because you see, Samaritans, they didn't have the best reputation. And they didn't typically live in this area. So what do you think would have been going on through people's minds if they saw one of their own people hanging half dead on the donkey of a hated Samaritan? It was dangerous for him to help out. The biggest difference between the Samaritan and the other two wasn't that he had more than the others, but that the difference was that he was willing to share what little he had. So the same goes for you. You may feel like many other people are better equipped to helping others than you are, but you have something that they don't. You're willing to share what you have to make it available to complete strangers. Others aren't. So we like to look at what we have to offer others in 3 categories: the gifts of the head, our hands, and our heart. Let's begin with the head. Knowledge. What do you know more about than most people? What do people say that you're an expert at? And maybe you're not the expert, but you might know someone who is. And that's my gift, networking. I like to connect people with others. Next would be taking risks. And last is math. No, I'm terrible at math, so I like to create ideas. What are you knowledgeable about? Now let's look at our hands. Hands are our skills. What can you do for others? Maybe you can build things. Maybe you draw or paint. Maybe you're good at basketball. All of these are skills. Now it's not just skills, it's also our stuff. It's not only about what you have in your hand, but what you have on hand that you can make available to others. So for me, my skill is wood, and I also have a lot of tools on hand for people to use. I like to work on cars, and I also have tools to work on cars. Always an excuse to get a new tool. And the last thing are just stupid skits. I'm great at stupid skits. Don't have me be Jesus in your passion play, but I can be the redneck from the Ozarks. Now finally, let's look at the heart. The heart is our greatest passions. What are you passionate about? What excites you? Do you like to ride bikes? Do you like to play games, cook? What can you not stop talking or thinking about? These are your passions. Maybe ask the question, what breaks your heart or makes you angry? Like the Good Samaritan who saw the wounded man, he couldn't help but feel pity. What hurts you to see and move you to action? Kids who are suffering? People who are hungry? Maybe you know what it's like to be lonely, so that breaks your heart. For me, people. I'm passionate about people. I love being around people. I get energized. Tacos? Oh, I love a good street taco. I can't stop talking about it. I tell everybody to go try them. And last, hungry. Yes, I am hungry, but what really makes me angry and breaks my heart is to know that there's enough food to go around, but not everybody's getting something to eat. So let's take a look at the Good Samaritan. Let's see how he used his head, his hands, and his heart. So first, the Good Samaritan used his head. He knew where to take someone for help. In verse 34, it says, he brought him to an inn and took care of him. Next, the Good Samaritan used his hands. He used first aid skills. The scripture says he bandaged his wounds, pouring an oil and wine. Then he used his stuff. He had oil and wine on hand. He also had money to pay the innkeeper. And then he had a donkey that he could transport the wounded man. Finally, the Good Samaritan used his heart. He had compassion. Verse 33 said, when he saw him, he took pity on him and had compassion. This doesn't seem like a very long list of resources, does it? But with the few resources he had, the Samaritan shared them and made them available to the stranger. Now we're going to take a few minutes for each of you to write down your gifts of head, hands, and heart on sticky notes. Try to come up with 3 for each category. So that's a total of 9 sticky notes for each team member. At this point, you're not trying to think of how any of your gifts can be useful for others in this pandemic. So don't eliminate anything just because you don't see a connection yet. Tacos, really? Well, maybe there's a connection. So generally speaking, what are your gifts of your head, your hands, and heart? Do this individually and then share with your team. Take your time with this. There's no need to rush. Pause the video and we'll see you when you get back. Welcome back. After each of your team members have shared their gifts, look now for how your gifts could overlap. Group the sticky notes together, rearranging them so that you can start to see what you share together as a group. For instance, take a look at hungry and tacos. Other than helping me put on my COVID-19, what do these have in common? You could put them in the category of food. So these will be useful for what we do next. Stop the video and we'll see you back here. Welcome back. You've probably discovered that you have way more gifts than you ever imagined. You have an action team with enough knowledge, with enough skills, enough stuff, and enough passion and compassion to bless others in some incredible ways. Now we're going to take a look at how all of that intersects with the pains of the world. Let's turn our attention to the 3 groups that we've decided to target during this pandemic. Our neighbors, frontline workers, and the most vulnerable. So get out a large piece of paper, if you have one, and create 3 columns like this. Let's begin with our neighbors. If your action team is spread across different neighborhoods, that's fine. There are more than likely a lot of similarities. Think back to the walk around the neighborhood. When you observed and imagined their lives, what did you notice? What pains them? What is frustrating for them during this quarantine? Write them all down. Next, move on to frontline workers. Who are those people who are risking themselves every day because their work is considered essential and they're more exposed to the virus than you are? Think beyond medical workers. Who risks themselves every day so you don't have to? Grocery workers? Delivery drivers? Sanitation workers? What are their unmet needs and frustrations? What would make their lives just a little more joyful, a little less lonely, and a little easier? Finally, let's look at the most vulnerable. Who are people who are having an extra difficult time? Who is at a higher risk for having complications with the virus? Who have lost jobs? How might immigrants, single parents, low-income housing have unique challenges? What are their pains and their frustrations? Pause this video here and discuss with your team, and we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Welcome back. Great work, you guys, on coming up with a list of all the frustrations and the pains that you've noticed. As you can see, there are a lot of unmet needs and a lot of burdens that people are carrying, and too often they're carrying them alone and without help. That's where you come in. Put both of the lists that you came up with, the gifts of your head, your hands, and your heart, as well as the pains that you've noticed, up on the wall. Now you're going to see what kinds of connections that you can make between them. Take hunger, for instance. That can go for the most vulnerable. There are people skipping meals and not by choice. How about networking? That can go with my neighbors. I can network with my neighbors to get their resources to help meet needs. And then finally, tacos. That's right. Even frontline workers would love a good taco. The Samaritan saw the pain of the wounded man and then quickly began to look to what he had that might be useful for that man. He had wine and oil, an imperfect antiseptic, but an antiseptic nonetheless. He had a donkey. He had an inn. In the same way, how might your gifts be put to use to meet the unmet needs of others? Draw as many connections as you can. If you see some connection, but it seems silly at first, don't rule it out. That's where some of the best creative ideas come from. After you've made a good number of connections, ask yourselves, which connections are we most drawn to? What would that idea look like in real life? Clarify it. Work together to turn it into an actionable idea. Turn it into a statement. Once you've come up with 3 to 5 ideas and statements, it's time to vote on them. Give everyone in your group 2 votes for their favorite ideas. Tally up the votes, then take the 2 most popular ideas and give everyone 1 final vote to narrow it down to 1 idea. Then ask yourselves, what do you think? Is that idea creating energy? Excitement? Is it something that your whole team can really get behind? Is it actionable? If it's not doing these things, maybe it's time to step back. Try it again. If it's still not coming together, maybe sleep on it and we can revisit it in the next session. I'm going to leave you here while you come up with your ideas. Again, if you're using social media, we'd love to see your work in progress using the hashtag ImagineX Challenge. If you have any questions and want some coaching, we would love to interact with you. Reach us at ImagineX@youthfront.com. Thank you for joining me in session 3. We'll see you in session 4.